over the last 2 or so months, the diva of Dump Divas Kat Engelbert, along with players in the WNBA who are desperately fighting for money they haven't earned, they have been congregating every Sunday morning at Woke United Methodist like they usually do. But instead of praying to their unrisen King George Floyd and demanding their usual prayer request, chartered flights, an increased supply of Just for Men, complimentary batteries for recently donated dildos, directions for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow so they can collect $1 million salaries. Instead of their usual request, the WNBA and its players, they have been asking Father George to heal the great white hope, Caitlin Clark.
People, the WNBA is very terrified. The league that said it was more than one player is now pleading with Caitlin Clark to hobble back onto the court since ratings are down and ticket sales are low. Yes, the only person who can save them is the same player they have been trashing all season. Do you believe she ought to come back? Leave a comment below with your comments. So, people, here we are once more. The WNBA is now almost on its knees, praying Caitlin Clark returns in time to avoid their ratings catastrophe. For the majority of last year, the league told us Caitlin Clark wasn't the face of women's basketball. It's funny how that operates, isn't it? Do you recall the time when the league, its players, and half of the media went above and above to persuade everyone that it wasn't just about Caitlin? Said a league cannot be defined by a single individual and that it was about the group. It's all about Caitlin Clark once more now that the numbers are dropping and many are already forgetting the playoffs even exist. She seemed to be the sole factor sustaining this league's relevance. Consider that.
Hey George, it's me, Kathy E! We're in deep shit. The networks are expecting big ratings for the playoffs, and there is absolutely no way these unknown players who think they are stars can deliver. I really need a miracle, Father. Can you please heal the injuries that Caitlin Clark is dealing with?
However, let's not act as though this is shocking. This was something that anyone who had been listening may have predicted. The hubbub stopped as Clark fell down. The buzz about attendance has faded. There was no longer a national TV bump. The conversation on social media is dead. After months of using her name to generate hits, ESPN now needs to insert pieces about Sabrina Ionescu making another three-point shot or Angel Reese sporting a new dress in order to fill the void. In Caitlin Clark's absence, the league essentially disappears. They are now in a frenzy. Despite her best efforts to seem composed, Kathy Engelbert, the so-called commissioner, is actually sweating a lot behind closed doors. One item was used to sell streaming deals as well as networks like ESPN and ABC. Clark, Caitlin. She is the cash cow in the ratings machine. Why anyone who isn't a die-hard WNBA fan? Twitter is even aware of the league's existence. Those advertising agreements wouldn't be successful without her. Sponsors like that don't renew. Additionally, the players who have been seeking NBA-level pay will quickly discover that reality doesn't give a damn about their backstabbing on Twitter. This is when the humor truly starts. The same players who were making fun of Clark, making crude jabs at her on the court, and rolling their eyes whenever she received attention suddenly want her to return. Oh, they will never publicly acknowledge it. I'm too proud for it. But believe me, they're considering it. Because their checks are somewhat larger when Caitlin Clark performs. In fact, more people attend when Caitlin Clark performs. They suddenly become important when Caitlin Clark performs. But they are meaningless without her. It's simple. Except for their little fan bases, no one is interested. And the WNBA is being forced to accept that harsh reality. The stats don't lie, so let's speak about them. Fever games were drawing league record attendance while Clark was healthy. We are discussing primetime ratings that were higher than those of Major League Baseball. Every city she visited saw a rise in ticket sales. Sales of jerseys are skyrocketing. Hell, the moment Clark arrived in town, even clubs who had been having trouble for years began to sell out venues. Her absence for several weeks has caused those figures to plummet. Even the most upbeat public relations campaign cannot hide the steep drop we're discussing. The league may brag about record attendance all it wants, but you know something is wrong when the playoff push, the most crucial part of the season, generates less excitement than a preseason scrimmage. Additionally, Stephanie White, the Fever's head coach, isn't exactly making things better.
Season. There is absolutely no reason for Caitlin Clark to return. But according to Stephanie White, the head coach of the Indiana Felines, not only is she hoping that Caitlin Clark returns for the playoffs, Steph wants to see the Roo from Waterloo back on the court in the regular season. The question is why?
She is expressing her optimism that Clark will return for the regular season and maybe the postseason. Excuse me, did I miss the bit about how it makes sense to get an injured superstar back on the court for the sake of the ratings? You would assume that a coach would put his franchise players' health first, but they wouldn't. Making ensuring ESPN has something to discuss in between LeBron James segments seems to be the top focus.
Return to practice. Hell, at this point, I don't even know if she's on the Huffy. Well, KC, don't you mean the treadmill? The WNBA can't afford a treadmill. When players are rehabbing injuries or looking to warm up, the WNBA provides them with a used Huffy or sometimes a Schwinn. But either way, with 10 or so days left in the regular season, Caitlin Clark is nowhere near ready to return. But according to Stephanie White, we could see the Roo from Waterloo on the court soon.
Let's be truthful. This has nothing to do with playoff placement or team performance. With or without Caitlin, the Fever aren't taking home a title this year. This has to do with money, plain and simple. The WNBA is aware that having Clark back on the floor, regardless of the danger, is the only way to keep the lights on and the checks clearing. What is the most ironic aspect? Do you know? The people most willing to jeopardize Clark's long-term health for immediate benefit are the same players and league executives who like boasting about player empowerment. Well, but don't worry, they'll make it seem like she wants to support her side. Please, we are all aware of the true situation.
Like I have been telling you guys since July, there is no way Caitlin Clark should return this season. The Indiana Felines are well on their way to being a flaming ass fire. They are barely clinging to the final spot in the playoffs. Sophie Cunningham's out for the season, which means Caitlin Clark would be on the court unprotected. She wouldn't have her bodyguard to protect her from opposing players who like to get physical.
In actuality, the WNBA cannot treat Caitlin Clark like any other player because she is too important. She cannot afford to be left out. They cannot afford to let their supporters go. Furthermore, they just cannot afford for their golden goose to realize that they are not nearly as dependent on her as she is on them. Because this is the harsh truth. The WNBA would disband if Caitlin Clark decided tomorrow that she was done with it, that she would take her skills abroad, or even simply concentrate on appearances and brand agreements. Completed. Angel Ree is free to record as many Netflix appearances as she likes. Sabrina is free to shoot as many practice threes as she likes. A.A. Wilson is free to share whatever inspirational sayings she likes. None of them shift the needle in Clark's absence. And for that reason, you are currently seeing this desperation. The league isn't only holding out hope that Clark will return. They're pleading, behind the scenes, quietly. They are most likely exerting pressure on the Fever to control the course of her damage. The networks are making calls. Questions are being posed by the sponsors. Paychecks are what the players seek. Everybody has a handout. And only Caitlin Clark is capable of filling it. Here's the problem. They owe Clark nothing. Not a single thing. She owes the league nothing. She owes the fans nothing. Furthermore, she owes nothing to the same players who have been working to undermine her for the past year. Her profession, her future, and herself are the only things she has to worry about. And it's okay if that means missing the remainder of the season. Let's now discuss what occurs when a league puts all of its eggs in one basket and then fails to deliver. Since Caitlin Clark's declaration for the draft, the WNBA has been riding high on her name. They pretended to have created their own success, splashed her face everywhere, and sold out games just because of her. But there was quiet when she was harmed. The "we're more than one player" storyline didn't seem as captivating all of a sudden. The irony hurts. Without Clark, These athletes who never stopped shouting that we should all be treated with respect are now witnessing empty venues and stagnant ratings. It turns out that equal interest does not equate to equal respect. The collective is not attended by the crowd. For the star, the audience turns out. Additionally, the league's sole true star is currently on the bench. The league doesn't want to acknowledge this section. Clark is more than simply a sportsman. The product is her. She is the focal point. The WNBA would be simply another sports league vying for attention without her. However, with her, even NBA Twitter, which is often occupied with debates over LeBron, takes a moment to notice, as do casual fans, national TV, and corporate sponsors. Naturally, they are in a frantic attempt to get her back. It's not about maintaining a competitive edge. The Fever's deep postseason run is not the goal. It's a matter of survival. Because the league is in severe peril if these playoffs fail, and everything suggests that they will fail. Simply consider the moment. The WNBA boasted about record-breaking statistics for months. TV ratings everywhere, ticket sales here, and jersey sales there. But if you pay more attention, you'll see something. Caitlin Clark was listed in all of those records. Road fever, record ticket sales, TV fever, record viewership, social media fever, and viral videos. The records vanish more quickly without the fever and without Clark than a WNBA player banning you on Twitter for posing a challenging query. What's left now that Clark is not playing? Angel Ree making appearances on Netflix. Nobody outside of Vegas is paying attention to AJ Wilson's impressive results. ESPN is frantically trying to promote Sabrina Ionescu's three-point shooting. It is insufficient. Clark is the only one who can move the needle. The casual fan is unconcerned. The networks are aware of it. Advertisers are aware of this. And the league is secretly aware of it as well. This is the alternative viewpoint. The actual players. They're sweating this too, even if they'll never say it out. Because higher ratings translate into more lucrative sponsorships, contracts, and revenue. And all of that becomes smaller without Clark. Those aspirations of earning millions of dollars now seem less plausible. All of a sudden, the demand for greater coverage, respect, and everything else fails. Because the league doesn't look any different than it did 5 years ago sans Caitlin Clark. Irrelevant. Because of this, I find it amusing whenever someone remarks, the WNBA was doing fine before Caitlin Clark.